I should have given thanks for adrenaline. It's really always a thing that helps you get up. In the weddings I do, I ask my couples about their intentions for being married. I find that too much of the traditional wedding service is a priestly exhortation to love one another. I think it's important, at least once in the ceremony, for a free-willed statement of love that includes the intention to continue that love for a lifetime. I often quote Toni Morrison from Beloved, who says, "The only grace you can have is the grace you can imagine. If you can't see it, you can't have it." Some people who are shy will simply say, "I love you now and I will love you forever," which is sweet and to the point. Others have a longer story to tell. One couple, early in my wedding priestess career, had been introduced by their hairstylist. They met and were dazzled by each other. They did dinner, a walk, a drink. They fell in love. The husband of the couple was an engineer, a really sweet guy, but the first to admit he was more at home with spreadsheets than words. I always suggest that couples share their intents before the ceremony because private words of love can be overwhelming, said in public. Imagine his bride's and my surprise when he movingly told the story of their first meeting, or their meeting and their first date, and finished it with, "We left the bar that evening, not knowing where our story would take us, but certain that we wanted to go there together. Today, we will be married. We don't know much about the journey ahead, but we leave here certain that we want to travel together." This memory is so vivid. I can tell you we were sitting at an outdoor cafe in Walnut Creek on a warm summer evening. I've done 1,000 weddings. This stood out. When I first started studying wedding ceremonies in seminary, I looked in every prayer book and found a statement of intent in the outline. I thought a lot about the outline, which didn't vary all that much from denomination to denomination, tradition to tradition, before I ever actually opened the books to read through their ceremonies. What a good idea, I remember thinking. What do you intend with this marriage? How will your lives change as a result of it? Well, of course, in those books, it wasn't really about that at all. For instance, in a traditional Christian wedding ceremony, the statement of intent is designed to remind the couple of their relationship and responsibility to the church and to God. However, by that time, my mind was stuck on the notion of saying in your own words how you intend to let this love change your lives. Now, where is Anne going, you might wonder? Well, for some reason, this began to, and given the week and the way my brain's working, you probably wouldn't be wrong. But for some reason, this began to seem to me a lot like what it means to join a Unitarian Universalist congregation, rather than joining another tradition. We say deeds, not creeds. We aren't interested in having people parrot back a party line, even though some of us may have very clear belief systems that ally with some of those traditions. We want people to say in their own words how their love of this faith and this particular community will enhance and transform their lives. I think this is why I found saying the words from "I Need You to Survive" so very powerful last week. I love you. You love me. We're all a part of God's body. I won't harm you with the words of my mouth. I need you to survive. It's as good a covenant as you'll find anywhere. We'll have to find the sheet music so we can learn it. And Sarah and I fought bitterly about whether or not we were going to get to just say it. We have to sing it. No. As we gather for our annual meeting, this is what I think we want to be remembering. I need you to survive, meaning both you are necessary to my survival, and your survival is necessary to me. I will not thrive if you do not do the same. We must care for one another. Annual meetings are times of reckoning, but they are also times of celebration. Here we are, together, having made it through another year. It's been quite a year. It's been a year with some challenges and with quite a few successes. I'll go over them later. But not the least of which is that we're about to be presented with a budget that balances. I'm sure more than a few of us remember sitting in a board meeting with a budget that paid a minister's salary and rent. Period. Kitty Lepley sat with a marker in her hand up on the whiteboard, and as people made suggestions for possible cuts, $10 at a time, she marked those figures down until we had enough money in the pot for coffee all year long. We didn't half need the yard sale that year. Any extra money meant cream, napkins. What a bonanza. Manna from heaven. Well, no, we didn't have money for manna. It's always important to remember our successes, because the more we have, the better we feel about about things, and the more courage we have to tackle the next thing. My upbringing in a Presbyterian church and all my education, both formal and informal, have reinforced the importance of making a difference. I'm sure I'm not the only one who leans on upbringing and education to have gotten me this far. Those of us who walked out into the wilderness from our earlier traditions, in some ways did so because those traditions had, in fact, taught us right from wrong. And eventually, that set us on a new path. I keep thinking about the Ursula Le Guin story, The Ones Who Walk Away from Umala. We are here to get our own needs met. That's true. We're here to create a community where we feel safe and seen. We're also here to create a refuge for those people coming along behind us. We only feel safe to invite people in if we've worked hard to make this house of worship our faith home. When we do something like last week's teach-in, we realize we have been complacent in allowing our tradition to continue on a tired old path. I looked at Sarah yesterday and I said, well, we might have been a day late, but I don't think we were $1 short at all last year with our teach-in. And besides, Jean Pupke was only doing it this week, and we sent her our whatever that was. No, the whole thing. The whole thing. Yeah, sorry. It's not working. We must figure out how to change our complacency. We must be the place that resembles what we hold to be true and sacred. We can only goad the mothership if we're doing the work ourselves. When I read something, as I did this week, a book that may be one of the most powerful pieces of literature I've ever read, The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. If we're doing our work, we have room and flexibility to change. This is the story of a young girl rescued at a party by an unarmed young black man. They're stopped as he's driving her home, and he is killed by a cop. This book was so painful. I really felt as if I was having my skin removed as I went through it. I did something I don't normally do, but I kept reading at different places in it. I couldn't read through it. It hurt so much. It was so painful. I have no idea what to do, how to cross that great divide. I only know we cannot allow ourselves to do nothing. Not if we are to be a welcoming community. Not only must we lead the community that we lead as a welcoming community, but we must be the community that refuses to accept such horror. What does that look like? Who knows? I only know there is an imperative towards hope and connection and well-being. And I believe that we hear that imperative. Being an activist is a frightening thing, unless you grow up with activism. And I have to say that nice girls in the 1950s did not. That you only grow into the role bit by bit. Knowing what is right doesn't make it easy to move forward. Yet the more we learn, the greater the imperative. I know I am braver because I have your hands to hold. I've always said I could go anywhere if I had a hand to hold. I think that's still true. I've never had so many hands to hold. And it no longer seems to matter if you're with me, holding my paw. As Virginia and Geordie said at their wedding, thanks to E. E. Cummings, I carry your heart with me. I carry it in my heart. I am never without it. Anywhere I go, my dear, and whatever is done by only me is your doing, my darling. We've proven to ourselves we can make a difference. We can not only raise money for backpack programs, we can raise awareness for the need. Rick Dandies is writing a series of articles on hunger in the valley. One of those articles will be on our work. And what's exciting is I've talked to him, we've talked on the Love Flows crowd about the need to perhaps have a forum and get everybody who does backpacks and food pantries together. And he's all about the papers doing that work and his being the person to lead it. He was struck by our question, can we be the valley with no hungry children? He too believes we can. We're going to push one another. Deb Eliason sent me an article the other day that talked about this being the time to aid food pantries. Kids are getting out of school and will not get food during the days or on weekends. Food pantries take up the slack. Can you sign up for $10 a month to be taken from your account for Love Flows? Can you slip some money in an envelope back at Scott's desk? Can you become someone who asks people to support the programs, all of them that we support? Is our difficulty and discomfort asking for money greater than the need of children to eat? The money stuff for our building came back different than we thought. It could be good news. It could be less than fortunate. Sarah and I have been dreaming of our own building, just like the one we've never owned. Do you hear White Christmas? Sarah wants to know if I don't want to stay home from Europe this summer and play with sledgehammers. Has that child met me? But something will happen. It will happen because we want to continue to make a difference and to be community. We come into this meeting today unclear what the path is, knowing only that we are going there together. Or as Ethel Merman sang, are you with me? Wherever we go, Whatever we do, we're going to come through it together. And that's where I'm going to end it today. It's a little shorter than usual, but we have work to do. And when is Ethel Merman not the perfect ending? Blessed be.